感谢各位贵宾，典礼即将开始，请将手机调整为静音或震动模式，谢谢。接下来进入专题演讲。本次的专题演讲，很高兴能够邀请到德州大学奥斯汀分校 Professor Gary Borich 主讲，并请国立台北教育大学张新仁校长担任引言人，请掌声欢迎。
Thank you for that very warm welcome. Oh, you're okay. You're going to introduce me. Well, you still deserve a warm welcome.
Dr. Borich, 市长、副校长、司长、副座，以及在座所有我们师资培育的先进们、伙伴们，大家好。好。Dr. Gary Borich was my professor when I started my PhD program in the University of Texas at Austin. His course, very popular. Due to his high expectation, only a limited number of students were accepted, right? Fortunately, I, as non-major student to take his course, and I learned a lot from him. As for us Chinese culture, the respect of teachers is very important. So I would like to take the chance to express my respect and gratitude to him. 因为今天时间很紧缩，所以本来想讲，我就不多说。我想主要是来介绍这个主题跟他。好，各位，Dr. Borich 非常有名。好，你看到他现在退而不休，就知道他多有名。好，他的领域，有效教学，还有 measurement 就是我们测验评量，还有就是有效的教学观察工具以及如何做。哈。他事实上在 UT Austin 的时候，学校也被要求他到教室里去观课，有一些需要提升教学品质的老师们去观课。好，所以各位，他今天所讲的这个部分，其实在107课纲即将实施的时候，新课纲实施，要求每一位校长，中小学的校长跟老师都要做公开授课。公开授课的意味，同时要获得专业的观课跟回馈。因此，如果你要进行观课，所有观课的项目，今天他会介绍，是来自于有实证研究为基础的有效教学的原理原则，把它转换成为观课的项目。好。所以他今天所讲的，大家可以看到的是这个 PPT。我昨天从11点到2点快3点，把他的英文版加上中文在同一页。大家看到17页就不用看了，好，那个是旧版。好，我们其实汪以为教授已经帮他做了一个新版，我再帮汪以为教授中英文版把它合成一个版本。就是有英有中，好，那么所以大家呢也不用担心这个版本 我向胡校长乐意提供会后提供给大家哈。那么同时各位，因为今天时间很短，非常短，我们可能待会会延误时间，大家要想精神粮食也是蛮重要的哈。那么也因为时间的关系，各位，我为了主持这个都要跟前一场都要问清楚。整个状况我们是衔接的，所以他们说了，待会儿不会有翻译，因为我就把它 combine 起来了，你直接看英文又有中文。好，那第二个时间很有限，所以请您写下你想要问的问题。好，这些问题交给我们工作人员。他午餐的时候，在国外professor 是不太吃太多午餐的，就 sandwich 就 OK 了，对不对？好，所以他在吃午餐的时候就会看大家问题，然后1点半会花半个小时回来，回答完大家的问题，然后他就 enjoy 他的 trip 哈。好，然后呢，我们接下来再有3位国内的教育先进跟我们再进一步做接下来议题讨论。这个我们昨天全部都交谈过，那我们觉得这样的方式对大家来讲可能这个效率更好。所以各位，今天不会有翻译，因为我身为他的学生嘛，我们都已经翻译完毕了哈。所以当主持还真的当学生来主持的时候都要额外做功课哈。不过这是我们的本分，也是报恩的时候哈。好，各位，我们就热烈的掌声 ，Let's welcome Dr. Borich for his speech.
Thank you very much. I'm very proud of her. She was one of my best students, and I'm so pleased to see her teaching and administering here. This is a special opportunity for me to be here today because while I've been to Taiwan on several occasions, I never was in southern Taiwan. And I am so pleased to be here, not only because to meet all of you and to give a presentation, but this is a very beautiful place in Taiwan. And I was very pleased to have the opportunity to be invited here, and I am very happy that I am here. Today, as you know, I want to talk about effective teaching. And it gives me a special feeling of warmth and friendship to be with other people who are very concerned with effective teaching. Your teachers, your administrators, and yourselves. So this is a special opportunity for me. I'd like to talk about today indicators of teaching effectiveness and show you how you might apply some of these indicators in your own classrooms and in your teacher training programs. So, as many educational administrators and teachers will recognize, like yourselves, statistical data about the condition of schooling has traditionally focused on per pupil spending and on student standardized test scores. But information about the instructional practices that link inputs with outputs has only recently entered into the development of teaching effectiveness indicators. Researchers, educational administrators, and policy analysts like yourselves have begun to argue that data on schools and classrooms are not just needed to monitor educational trends and measure school conditions, but also to generate practical information that can be used to improve the training of teachers and the achievement of the students they teach. To accommodate this need, lists of teacher effectiveness indicators have increasingly included a more comprehensive picture of the instructional process. These processing indicators of teacher effectiveness are intended to go beyond standardized test scores and student classroom performance to get at the sources of variation in these measures, sources that could be identified and altered by systematic classroom observation within teacher training institutions. For example, information about the number of students enrolled in a teacher training course at the university level conveys little information about how much content is covered, the manner in which it is taught, and the teaching skills acquired. And poor student performance in the classroom tells us little about the specific teaching behaviors that could contribute to improving that performance. The research dimensions of effective teaching and the observation skills and instruments that I will discuss come from both quantitative and qualitative studies. From these studies have emerged 7 dimensions that have contributed the most to effective teaching, as measured by tests of achievement, student participation in the classroom, and student attitudes toward learning. These dimensions are believed to be the support system that blend and harmonize to create an effective teacher. Just like the horns, violins, and wind instruments in a symphony, they come together to play the melody of an effective teacher. But to become competent at teaching, teachers must also know what to look for and have a framework or structure by which what is observed can be made meaningful for becoming effective in their classrooms. Other skills are needed too. They must be psychologically ready and physically prepared to observe, have tools for categorizing and recording what they see, and have knowledge of teaching content and methods. And most important of all, they must be able to see the patterns and sequences that effective teachers use that make all of the parts work as a whole. Where do teachers learn to see all of the parts working as a whole? How do they bring their natural abilities, knowledge of content and teaching methods, professional goals together into a harmonious pattern of behavior to become a professional? It isn't from texts, university classes, and practice teaching alone. And the hectic pace of classrooms makes it difficult for many teachers to reflect on their own patterns of behavior. Only through teachers observing more experienced teachers can all of these ingredients be brought together into meaningful patterns of effective teaching to be modeled in their own classrooms. So today, I would like to focus on one of the principal means by which teachers become professionals. This is by observing other teachers using valid indicators of teaching effectiveness and reliable observation instruments with which they can incorporate what they see and hear into their own teaching. Slide 2. To begin, here is a quick overview of 7 research-supported dimensions for observation that you would see in an effective teacher's classroom. You'd see flow, where there is an unbroken stream of instruction, uninterrupted by classroom management problems and distractions. You'd see warmth, where you'd see a cohesive learning environment and a partnership and shared development of ideas among teacher and students. You'd see structure, where there is a direction and a forward movement through the curriculum in which both students and teacher are goal-directed. You'd see focus, where students are spending the majority of class time actively engaged in learning, thinking about or practicing the material taught. You'd see the transfer of knowledge, where the connection is close and meaningful between the curriculum being taught and the tests of achievement used to measure it. You'd also see student attention, where the teacher brings real-world experiences and knowledge from outside the classroom into the classroom. In other words, the teacher conveys the sense of it all, or what it means in some larger context that ignites the student's attention and curiosity. And finally, you'd see understanding in a classroom filled with opportunities for independent practice and group discussion that fosters higher order thinking. Now, let's look at how these dimensions fit into a teacher's classroom and can be systematically observed for a teacher's growth and improvement. And I might add, it is amazing how much I have found these methods of good teaching the same across nations. Slide 3. The first of our dimensions, flow, is achieved by an effectively managed classroom. An effectively managed classroom is one in which instruction is not interrupted by conduct or behavioral problems. The first thing you'd notice in a poorly managed classroom is that it feels bumpy when the teacher stumbles along, dividing teacher time between student discipline problems and instruction. Slide 4. Research shows that teachers who effectively manage their classrooms establish from 6 to 8 classroom rules divided between academic work and classroom conduct. But the research indicates that it is not the nature of the specific rules that makes the difference in these classrooms, but the sense of order conveyed to learners by having rules. And it was important in these classrooms to have rules clearly divided between academic work rules and rules for classroom conduct and discipline. Second, teachers who effectively manage their classrooms taught a connected stream of activities in a planned sequence that actively involved their students in learning. For example, one teacher taught her students a connected sequence that included reading from text, followed by discussing what was read, then followed by summarizing what was read, and finally putting what was learned into practice. This sequence of events promoted a continuous flow of activity that kept learners active and alert, increasingly engaging them in related tasks that built upon one another. And third, teachers in these effective classrooms used what can be called low-profile classroom management. A teacher who uses low-profile classroom management scans the classroom to anticipate behavior problem, deflects misbehavior that is about to happen. For example, by calling on or moving closer to the student who may be inattentive, and immediately reacting to misbehavior. For example, by giving a brief warning that consumes a minimum of class time. These low-profile classroom management practices, with which the teacher anticipates, deflects, and reacts, can avoid problems in ways that create the least possible disruption to the flow of instruction. These practices also convey to the class a sense of what we call withedness or alertness to students, which means that the teacher is always aware of what is going on in the classroom, preventing any further interruptions. Let's look at one of the ways this classroom management behavior can be observed. Here is one of the instruments for observing classroom misbehavior. When it is anticipated, is just beginning, or has already occurred. requiring an immediate intervention by the teacher. Notice the three major divisions: anticipation, deflection, and reaction, in which low-profile classroom management may be needed. This instrument is measuring the number of times the teacher chooses one or more of these procedures to stop the disruptive behavior of a student that could be interrupting the lesson. Notice that the application of these teacher responses is linked to the seriousness of the student's behavior, from simply raising your voice to moving closer to the student, representing a non-verbal response, to reminding the student of a rule, and finally, to giving a warning that a more intensive response might be given. The point of low-profile classroom management is to prevent classroom disruptions with the least amount of time lost in completing the lesson. The number of times low-profile responses are used may speak to the orderliness of the classroom, but also to the skill of the teacher to smoothly avert additional and perhaps more serious intrusions to the lesson. Slide 6. Our second teaching dimension for classroom observation is the learning climate in a classroom. An effective learning climate is marked by a cohesive community of learners, supporting one another, working on meaningful tasks. Let's see how this is accomplished. Slide 7. If I asked you where you'd want to be on this diagram of classroom warmth and control, what would you say? Notice the 4 quadrants of combinations of warmth and control. The concepts of warmth and control are often the most troublesome for new teachers. It was my biggest problem as a new teacher. Some teachers respond by choosing one or the other: warmth, ignoring control, or being in control but ignoring warmth, in the belief that both are not possible at the same time. But the research says otherwise. It says that there can be a classroom climate that strikes a balance between being both warm and in control, as the area to the right and center in the diagram shows. This is where there are opportunities for student self-expression with a moderate level of control. Slide 8. This is achieved by providing opportunities for student self-expression through collaborative and group work. Students expressing themselves by sharing ideas and accomplishing goals together has shown to be one of the most effective ways to create a warm and cohesive classroom, as well as a classroom that is orderly and under the control of the teacher. And second, this classroom climate can be maintained and extended with student projects, portfolios, and shared web-based resources, including blogs, wikis, and presentation media, by which students are continually applying what they have learned. In other words, students themselves provide the warmth and orderliness when your goals include interacting together to accomplish meaningful and challenging tasks. Slide 9. Here are some of the ways learning climate can be observed. Let's first look at some teacher behaviors representing a classroom climate of high warmth, and then some teacher behaviors representing a classroom of high control. Think about your students, which might respond in these two learning climates by noting the top 3 entries in bold for warmth and control. I think we would all agree that we prefer to be in the high warmth classroom. The warmth and control items on this and the following instrument were constructed by actually observing in classrooms. So we found a good number of real-world teacher behaviors to build a second instrument that you see here, slide 10. Together, they provide a large set of behaviors that were observed. The top 3 shown in bold in each of the instruments represent the most frequently observed entries for both warmth and control across the 4 15-minute intervals of observation. As would be expected, the frequency of high warmth behaviors were significantly greater than control behaviors, but all were observed over a 3-month period in a sample of different schools. Slide 11. Our third effective teaching dimension for observation is a teacher's task orientation. It involves 2 important concepts. Teacher's time on task, representing the actual amount of time the teacher is delivering the lesson, and student's time on task, representing the actual amount of time the students are thinking about, working with, or responding to the content taught. It may be surprising, but in some classrooms that were observed, only 60% of classroom time was devoted to actual instruction. What does the research say about how you can increase the time you are teaching and the time your students are learning? Slide 12. 3 classroom practices have been shown to be effective in achieving a task orientation. The first is using advanced organizers that relate lesson objectives to unit goals. The research shows that teachers spend more time on task when they show the whole or big picture of what they will be teaching before teaching the parts. In other words, you have to convince your learners that what you are about to teach is meaningful through their eyes before their attention and curiosity is sufficiently aroused to fully commit to what you are about to teach. For example, graphic organizers, diagrams, and pictures that can help convey in advance the big picture of what will be taught helps provide the structure that increases a teacher's task orientation and student attention. Second, it has been noted that by minimizing clerical tasks during instruction, such as passing out books, homework, and instructional materials, you increase your time teaching as well as student engagement. Administrative and clerical tasks have been shown to take up from 10 to as much as 15% of the time scheduled for instruction. It has been shown that some of these tasks could easily be deferred to non-instructional time. For example, when possible, simply having a student place needed materials on student desks before class begins, or preparing handouts in advance that summarize the needed introductory concepts. And third, teachers have increased their task orientation by being mindful to use direct instruction. For example, presenting new content or lecturing, to achieve the acquisition of knowledge, and to use indirect instruction, for example, inquiry and discussion, to attain the higher order behaviors of analysis, synthesis, and evaluation. The misapplication of the direct and indirect models of teaching that reverses the purposes of these two methods of instruction were frequently observed by researchers. For example, the use of drill and practice to try to elicit higher forms of learning, and the use of inquiry and discussion methods to try to teach content at the knowledge or comprehension level. This reversal of approaches to the desired subject matter reduced the efficiency of a child's task orientation and the actual time needed to achieve lesson objectives. A lot of having a task orientation is how the task instructions are communicated to students. Here is how this aspect of task orientation can be observed. Slide 13. In the early elementary grades, providing task instructions orally and placing the instructions on display, for example, on a whiteboard or a poster, was proven to be the most effective. However, in the upper elementary and high school, task instructions were most effective if they were provided orally, but in conjunction with a handout, which could record greater amounts of information. Slide 14. Our fourth effective teaching dimension emphasizes the importance of student engagement. While you may be task-oriented and spend most of your time teaching, your students may be actively engaged in learning only half that time. Student engagement is the time your students are actively thinking about, working on, or practicing the material taught. What is it that keeps students actively engaged in your lessons? Let's find out what the research says. Slide 15. One of the impediments to student engagement has been classwork and homework that does not cognitively and meaningfully engage students. 3 teaching practices have been shown to promote student engagement. The first emphasizes the immediate and close connection between practice and feedback. Students naturally become disengaged when feedback about how well they are doing is not provided immediately after the time of the student's response. It has been shown that feedback on student performance given later is rarely effective in motivating students. The second practice found to promote student engagement is the use of activities that give students an opportunity for self-expression that allows for choices and personal initiative. In several studies, it was shown that it was the opportunity for the sharing of ideas, especially about practical applications of the subject matter, that was responsible for significant achievement gains. The third teaching practice that has been shown to increase student engagement is the consistent monitoring of seat work. It was found that just 15 to 30 seconds of teacher feedback, if provided consistently to a learner over time, showed an increase in student engagement, but also the frequency of correct responses. We would have to say from this that the longer you take giving feedback, the less the student will stay alert to what you are saying. Make your feedback short and to the point if you want to be sure your feedback is remembered. Slide 16. Here is an example of an instrument used to observe a teacher's use of activities that can promote student engagement. Notice the variety of activities intended to engage students for an entire class period, beginning by simply raising oral questions, extending to related exercises in text or workbook, followed by problems presented in a handout, and concluding with summary activities provided by the learner. Each of these related activities are intended to build upon and maintain a constant stream of engagement and momentum for achieving the intended behaviors at the end of the lesson. Slide 17. Our next effective teaching dimension pertains to the all-important student achievement on classroom and standardized tests. In the U.S., we have the Common Core State Standards to promote student success, representing benchmarks of expected student progress. And you have similar standards that prepare your students for standardized tests. Slide 18. How can the classroom teacher promote student success on both classroom and standardized tests? The research presents 3 opportunities. The first is to provide graduated feedback. Graduated feedback means using wrong answers or partially right answers as teaching opportunities to help lift the learner onto the next rung of the learning ladder. In other words, wrong answers can be effective teaching tools when the teacher adjusts his or her response to the student's current level of understanding to encourage a correct or better answer. Or one might say that there can be no totally wrong answers in a classroom if the teacher can find an alternative way of posing the question that can be used to direct the learner's answer in a better direction. And second, the second opportunity to promote student success is teaching slightly above the average of your student's current level of understanding. Research has found that many students learn more from their mistakes, providing a greater opportunity for correction, than by instruction that provides fewer opportunities for mistakes. And third, students should be asked to respond in cycles of varying cognitive demands, such as a cycle of reading, discussing, summarizing, and finally applying what has been learned, each making progressively more cognitive demands on the learner. This and similar cycles of increasing cognitive demands has been noted to produce more active learning than any one or a combination of these activities. Slide 19. Here is one example of how student success can be observed. Notice how different the teacher-student interchanges are. Which student would you like to be? Or which teacher would you like to be? Let's compare the 2 teachers' responses. Bill gets the question partly right. His teacher tells him that his answer is wrong and asks another student to answer the question. Now, compare that with Kay, who gets the answer partly right. Her teacher affirms the correct part of the question and explains why the other part was wrong. I think you would agree that Kay's teacher provides a more motivating response than does Bill's teacher, giving Kay a feeling of some success and the motivation to succeed at another time. Bill's teacher chooses to withhold any indication of success that may diminish his motivation to succeed at another time. Slide 20. Our sixth effective teaching dimension is using instructional variety to capture student attention. Student attention is achieved by conveying that you have something important to say. How can you convey a sense of variety that captures your students' attention? The research suggests the following. Slide 21. Teach the importance of the world outside your classroom by using examples that include real people, events, and problems. It has been found that the application of school learning to the world outside of the classroom has become one of the most effective means of achieving higher order outcomes of decision making and problem solving. The key to promoting these outcomes has been for teachers to be vigilant and keep records of significant events occurring outside of their classroom that can be related to the subject matter being taught. The second, teach with enthusiasm. Your periodic movement around the classroom, from the desk at front to walking around the classroom, communicates a message that you care. In an experiment at the University of Texas, we found significantly more on-task behavior when a teacher was animated and moving around the classroom at different intervals, even when the teacher returned to his or her desk at the front of the classroom. In other words, you don't have to be animated all the time. And thirdly, for variety in keeping your learner's attention, ask questions with more than one correct answer. Student attention has been shown to increase when some questions have more than one right answer. For example, if you're in first grade, in addition to asking what 2 plus 2 is, also ask what would be some examples when 2 things plus 2 things can equal 4. Or, in the upper grades, in addition to asking the name of a computer software program, ask what are some of the functions that a computer software program can perform. These questions provide for more than a single correct answer. In other words, more variety that gives the learner a choice that leads to greater student attention and learning, even when the first part of the question may not be answered or is answered incorrectly. And fourth, use student ideas to place the context of a lesson into your students' own world. For example, today we will be talking about the role of technology in our lives. What are some new technologies that has changed your life? Because you are asking something about their lives, students are more likely to contribute to your lesson with their own experiences. If you want to add tantalizing amounts of variety to your classroom, be sure to convey the relevance of what you are teaching to outside the classroom and to earlier and subsequent classwork. Slide 22. Here is an example instrument for recording instructional variety. Notice the box at the top right labeled wait time 1 and 2. The time period between the teacher's question and the student's response is called wait time 1. Increasing wait time 1 to a minimum of 5 to 10 seconds gives the student a longer opportunity to compose an answer and improves the quality of the student's response. Some teachers do not give students sufficient time to think about the answer before providing the correct answer themselves. Wait time 2 is the time after the student's initial response and before the teacher's reaction. By increasing wait time 2, teachers provide students an opportunity to elaborate on or more fully complete their answer before going to the next student. Both wait times have been important in promoting correct student answers. Numbers in the columns below indicates a sufficient amount of wait time 1 or wait time 2 or both had not been provided for that question. Slide 23. Our final effective teaching dimension is lesson depth and clarity that promotes student understanding and higher order thinking. It is what I call the thinking curriculum that includes ways of teaching metacognition, cognitive learning strategies, decision-making, and problem-solving in the context of subject matter instruction. Slide 24. It has been found that a classroom with transitions from knowledge acquisition to knowledge application provides the opportunity for higher order learning. These higher order learning activities often involve creating something new that can include searching for the unusual, posing alternatives, accepting different points of view, flexibly applying knowledge, and locating information. These can be taught at almost every level of schooling to connect classroom content to its application. Second, these performance-based instructional activities have also been found to promote the depth and clarity of the content being taught. They represent teaching the application of knowledge, not just what may appear to students as knowledge for its own sake. The cognitive demands that these performance activities present include examples, illustrations, and demonstrations that teach students to meaningfully apply what they have been taught. And finally, student understanding is achieved by conveying the glue, or what I call the stickiness, that makes previously taught content come together and be remembered. These should include real-world content and understandings. This has been accomplished with projects, oral performances, portfolios, and investigations that require application and reflection. Research has shown that these and similar performance-based activities have resulted in greater decision-making and problem-solving, promoting higher order thinking. Here are some of the activities for observing student understanding and higher order thinking. Slide 25. This teacher has selected to probe the depth and clarity of her students' understanding using oral performances. Note how she increases the cognitive demands expected of her students as she requires increasingly real-world applications, beginning with higher order questions, then increasing more demanding activities requiring discussion, analysis, and interpretation, concluding with portfolios, investigations, and reenactments. Over the course of a single class, this teacher has incrementally increased the real-world applications of the content she was teaching. These are the 7 research-based concepts for effective teaching that may be revised and added to in the years ahead. For now, may they serve you well in your classroom. If you would like to gain experience in observing, to begin observing these 7 dimensions of effective teaching, you could begin getting accustomed to seeing them in the classroom with this summary instrument, slide 26. In closing, I'd like to share some final reflections for making all of the above research and observations meaningful in your classrooms. These reflections represent what I believe to be 3 of the most important steps that have come to define an effective teacher. The first of these is the importance of the trust and confidence that is created between a teacher and a learner. Without a personally meaningful relationship between teacher and students, your job will become a lot harder and your instructional goals more difficult to achieve. In other words, your students will need to see you in a warm and supporting role in order for you to gain their confidence and willingness to work hard and to learn. The practical importance of this relationship will become clear in a moment. This trust and confidence is built by a second characteristic: your unconditional acceptance of each of your students' potential to learn. When you give up on a student, that student gives up on you. And nothing but classroom management problems lay ahead to make your classroom less productive. Plenty of teacher observations will attest to the fact that every student can learn at one level or another if you persist in being the catalyst for that learning in a warm and supporting environment. Now, my final reflection is related to my first, in that I believe to be an effective teacher, there must be trust and confidence between teacher and learner. Why? In order to create an emotionally safe and nurturing environment. Why? To encourage learners to explore and discover and think on their own without fear of failing. One of the most important indications of an effective teacher is his or her ability to provide opportunities for every learner to explore and discover and think on his or her own under the guidance of the teacher. If you think back on it, the thrill of exploring and discovery may have been one of the most remembered moments of your own school years. But they are also the stepping stones to what many consider the most cherished goal of schooling: higher order thinking and its application to the world outside of your classroom. These are some of the dimensions of effective teaching and some of the observation tools with which you can make a beautiful melody in your classroom. With them, may all of your days in the classroom be happy ones. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Borich. Excellent speech, combining effective teaching and teaching observation. Due to limited time, just ask everybody of you to write down the question you want to ask, and Dr. Bowrich will view those questions during lunch and come back again in the late afternoon and give a half an hour to answer the question because our lunch has been delayed. So how about just give a big hand. 那谢谢大家哈，因为大家手上也都有这个翻译的这个原文版，好原版。各位，他为了帮助我们播放 PPT， 大家要注明下一章是第几个 PPT 哈。不过我刚刚就及时啊，我不能顾这边哈，我正好顾那边。他讲到哪里，正好用那个PowerPoint的那个哈来特别点哈。因为即使听了1个小时的英文，其实也蛮辛苦的，哈，但是非常经典之作。也就是说，如何把有效教学的实证研究结果转化为教学观察的指标，变成indicator， 然后他告诉我们，后面他没有做 PPT， 我这里就少了一张 PPT， 就是你真正观察的时候。观察的人跟被观课的人要彼此要 trust， 好，然后这个信任感，好，那么他才有可能彼此从观课回馈当中获益。我相信这会是很重要的一个技巧。各位留在下午让他回答好了哈，他也没做 PPT， 说不定就是让大家能够激发自己想想，我们还有哪些可以在我们的师培的课程当中，既然107所有的老师都要做，我们怎么样把这个需求回到师资培育，变成师资生的 DNA， 就是他的基因，从师培课程里就开始。来强化这一端，一方面要知道什么叫有效教学，一方面要知道我们如何来观课跟回馈。我想这也是这一次大会，尤其是我们师培司他安排的一个主要用意。当然下午还有场次，包括台湾自己发展出来的，我想我们都一块来学习。各位，待会你午餐了，好，各位用餐愉快，下午见。当大学生就要认真了，对不对？你看，要服务到底，对不对？这是学生的本分。
好，谢谢张校长。接下来是午餐时间。